Hello, my name is Reverend Penelope Stewart. I run a business online, a metaphysical bookstore called Kim Ancestry. But right now, we're not going to talk about that. I'm coming to you guys with a interesting book review. Today is March 21st, 2016. I'm going to try to make it as short as possible, but I want to be thorough as possible too. Uh, this book was very interesting. The Sibyls. I hope you guys can see that. The Sibyls. This was a very interesting book. It's a very interesting book. Uh, it's very interesting. It's by Mama Zogby. Mama Zogby. Uh, this opened it up. I had heard that the black woman was God. I've read it in many books, but it was no description in detail about why that is said. I knew about the genetic makeup of us. I knew that we were the first human beings on the planet. I knew that. But on a spiritual level, I didn't know much about what African women contributed when it came to the development of spiritual growth and connecting to celestials and to the cosmos. I didn't know much about that because I didn't read about that. I read about a lot of men that founded all these religions or spiritual practices, but I didn't know much about African women. I saw a little bit of mentions in the Bible about some women that did some great things for their people, but it was just a short mention of people like Esther, Deborah, Mary. They don't talk much about that, yet these women are highly esteemed women. And so when I got to reading more about the Sibyls, and this is a great book, this sister mother did such a great job of tracing back the spiritual history of African women. And I'm here to say, this book helped me connect with my ancestors even stronger. It confirmed a lot of things in my spirit. Relating back to my relationship with my ancestors. I'm going to read the introduction in this book. You know, Everything was stolen from the black woman, and that's true. And African women, we're going to get back, we have to get back into our healing. We're going to have to get back in connection with our spiritual essence that is our birthright. Um, Men, you're going to have to support us and get us back in our rightful place and form a structure um, that's like this. Like this. It was such a successful structure before the patriarchal rule came into place and destroyed that. And that's what you see what happened with these religions. And it's not just African men that I'm sorry, it's not just Caucasian people that played a part in this. It was a lot of things that came into play. Okay, because you have the men against the women, and you see this go on with the African men against the African woman. So this wedge between us is really ancient. Okay, and so it's a healing all the way across the board. That's why I tell people, find your history. You won't be so upset about this racism thing if you really start understanding how things came about, how the deception continued and came about. And that's why I tell you to research, learn more about yourself. The ancestors speak to us through knowledge, through knowing, through learning. Your mind begins to open, and they'll begin to speak to your intuition, and you'll run into books and knowledge or people that's going to be speaking on the subject that you're inquiring about. And this is what happened with this book. I was inquiring about, I was wanting to fill in some gaps about a paper I'm still working on, but that I'm working on. And I know that anything has to do with religion or anything, it's going to be African based, because all other non-Africans learn from us. Okay, Africans, indigenous people, we were the first for everything, so everybody else learned from us, and uh, they modified it into religion. Okay, and that's what you got going on here. But this book, The Sibyls, the First Prophetess of Miami Wata, The Theft of the African Prophecy by the Catholic Church. Yeah, this is a really good book. But I'm going to read the forward word here. And just to give you, and this forward word really gives you a really good brief description of the book, the chapters. But she goes in and she tells you who these African Sibyls was. And it was a wonderful book. I don't know. I guess because my intuition was telling me this stuff all along, and to find a mother elder of our own that traced this back, that did the footwork and did the research to find our story, and she's telling our story. And so I thought this was absolutely wonderful. And then it talked about voodoo, and how I knew instantly, and I don't know if it's others like me, that sat in church and listened to the Old Testament and instantly knew that they were talking about the voodoo religion. I knew instantly with the offerings and sacrifices. I knew instantly they were talking about indigenous African practices. I knew that. But I had nothing to prove that until I start learning and searching for truth. And I started running it, and my intuition was very, very right. So it's something in our DNA, as the ancestors, they live in us, because this intuition has been in me for a very long time, since I was a small child. And I've always had phenomena to happen to me. So the ancestors, their work, I don't think I'm the only one. I think it's others like that. Others out there like you, the one, especially the ones that's awakening up. I think they've felt that deep knowingness in their inner being as well, and that's why it's so easy for them to transition out of religion and wake up out of the illusion. So let me just read the first things of this book, the first two chapters of this, well, the foreword of this book, because this review this foreword is really an introduction. Let me make sure this is really an introduction of the book, just giving you a brief snapshot of what the book is consists of in the book. Okay, so I'm gonna read a couple of pages here, so you can understand what's going on. Thinking outside of the Western patriarchal box. The idea that African religious traditions, ritual practice, social customs, divine prophecy, and fundamental beliefs once dominated both the secular and non-secular world in ancient times. Seems hard to imagine, even more the notion that African women, the oldest human beings on the planet, laid the theological foundation of Judaism, Hinduism, Christianity, and Islam under the auspices, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, of the black matriarch seems even more incredible. Okay? Considering the current status of the African women around the world, one would hardly be convinced that her matriarchal presence and enormous influence she wielded in the ancient world had far exceeded the limited physical, cultural, geographical, political designation of which Africa and her religions are confined today. One could hardly imagine that the African religions had reached very high levels of theological and ritual development, and that they were the original home of the world's first great oracles, prophets. The absence of African women in the world as major players, as opposed to exceptions to the norm or mere appendages of great men, has been problematic and disturbing at best. For the first time, her story is being unearthed, revealed, and told. The first prophets of Mama Wata were African women. They were called Sibyls, meaning that they were the Mama Wata priestess and priestess of the Onanas. The more advanced this matriarchal divine order are known as Agmenesis in Africa today. They can call up the dead and even the souls of the living. They were the ancient oracle used in ancient Greece, Roman, and Babylon. Their prophecies are the oldest in the world. It is through divine blood of these Sibyls, priestesses, that patriarchal kingship of the pharaohs, the Hebrews, and the prophets and the Chaldean priests were born. So you see, they gave birth to these men who developed these religions. Okay, so this rebellion came from men first. Okay, the great Sibyls, divine oracles of ancestors and God. Webster Dictionary defines Sibyl as a female prophet or woman able to utter the oracles and prophecy of God, or a woman who can foretell the future. Conversely, under the bitter Hebrew patriarchs, the Sibyls are condemned in their Bible as Bahalat Tha'ab, meaning evil serpent spirit or mistress of Pathon. Okay, so everything that you see in the Bible got reversed. They were prophecies of the Sibyls that men took over and started demonizing women. And that's why you see that women in the Bible, women and minorities, that I can explain that later, the minority part. But you see in the first section of the Bible, it is a wedge between man and woman, because woman is responsible for deceiving man. So you see how that got twisted. So we have to deal with these issues. Okay. Now, Sibyl black doves originally Holy Spirit. So these doves that's now white used to be black. I know it just blows your mind. These doves used to be black, symbolizing the black Sibyls, the divine, okay, the Holy Spirit. Universally known as the black doves, the Sibyls refer to themselves as sisters of Isis, and sometimes prophetess of the Black Diana. And see, I don't understand. They don't talk about this in Wicca either. Even, you know, they venerate the goddess Diana, but you know that originally she was black. So they don't talk about that. That's why I say this new age thing is really old age. You know, we don't need it. We have, this is it here. You don't need it, because what they have is based off us. It's based off African spiritual concepts and spirituality. So you don't need anything when it originally comes from you, African women. Okay. The dove symbolized the sacred soul or Holy Spirit, an Afro-mystical symbol later adopted by the Christians. It was the Sibyls matriarchal group that settled at Asia Minor in ancient Turkey, installed Miami's worship more than 25 years before the Doric Greek and Turkic invasion. Now this is true, because this lines up perfectly. If some of you people doubt that, because when I was reading the books of Destruction of Civilization and these other books that talk about African history, it talks about how these African women were being kidnapped. But it doesn't tell you, the author never tells you why these women are being kidnapped or what they were doing with these women. That's never been discussed in these books, but I always pondered it in my mind. Why are these African women so important? Why are they valued like that? Why are they kidnapping these women? You know, but that is not answered. But she answers this question in the book, because no one, you know, they talk about these women being kidnapped and not being protected, but they're not telling you what they're doing with these women and where are these women, where did they go and what happened to them. Okay. Miami, whom they knew as Laocoon with her serpents, was known as the manifestation of the divine logos, with the holy temples scattered all throughout Asia Minor, Kushite, Mitanni Empire, and in the Minoa and Massanet, in parentheses, Aegean Islands. Archaeological pottery shards date the black descendants of Libyan Garmentes, present-day Uwi Aladas, Ga, and the Banji, and other African clans who had settled into the ancient Babylon and elsewhere before the flood. to have arrived in Manoa, Ionia, as early as 4000 BCE, hailed as one of the seven wonders of the world. These sacred temples were maintained by the Sibyls and contingent of Vestal Virgin priestesses and eunuchs. Okay? Vatican original sacerdotal seats of Sibyls. Okay, so before it was a Vatican or a Pope, these women held these positions. Before it was a Pharaoh or anything else, these women prophetess held these positions. Everything went through the Divine Mother, and it kept things in balance that way. Okay? Africans, Black Buddhists, Umbrians, Black Eurasians erected civilizations what is now Italy thousands of years before the Anglo-Romans arrived. What is now called the seat of the Vatican in Italy was originally the sacerdotal seat of the ancient Black Sibyls. As the first established sacerdotal African matriarchs, the Sibyls' culture and religious impact was arguably the most profound on the ancient civilization that modern history has ever revealed or cared to admit. So they're letting you know when it was a matriarchal society, we were at the height of civilization, but they're not going to admit that. I know you've seen on History Channel where they find these little artifacts of these African women with these big breasts and these stomachs and stuff, or these protruding lips, or these protruding vaginas or whatever. That is from that era of women. They don't talk much about that, and that's for a reason. Okay, so this is, like I said, this is a very good book. Okay, from the Mesopotamia to Libya to Mizraim, Kemet, Egypt, Iona, Minoa, Peloponnese, Turkey, and Mycenae, Greece, and later Rome, the Sibyls were the primary divine Vatican and absolute moral authority. Did you hear that? The Sibyls were primary divine Vatican and the absolute moral authority. That's right, African women. So it's important that we know who we are and we walk in the legacy of our ancestors. Okay? For centuries, the Grecian islands of Delos, Dodona, Delphi, and the Temple of Miami in ancient Libya were the ecclesiastical and moral hub of religious, social, international, political activity. It was under the theocratic governance of Sibyls as queen mothers that African matriarchal culture reached its golden age of achievement in medicine, religion, astronomy, philosophy, law, architecture, music, and social sophistication. You heard it there. Now, I know a lot of men, they have a problem with that, but this is not a bad thing. We were not out of balance with this. Okay, I don't know where the wedge came from between men and women, African men and women, but a lot of men is starting to realize that it is going to take that African woman to balance things out and get things back in their natural order. Sarah Seti talks about that. uh, John Henry Clark talks about that. So a lot of our elders and ancestors discuss this subject, but now you know why. I'm giving you more information of why they are saying this, okay? Okay, Sibyls heal sick, raise dead long before Christ. That's why I said Jesus is not your ancestors. You need to know more about you. And what the Sibyls did, they created this Jesus to do the same thing, because remember, they're trying to win the mind of people, and these are ancient people, so they putting these things in order to manipulate them, to sway them to their religion. It was a competition thing, because you got the Catholics competing against the Hebrews, you got the Muslims, they're all competing in their religions. It's the same thing with politics. This thing is still playing out, and so you need to understand that. As the sole spiritual authority in ancient world, the Sibyls were famous for uttering warnings and admonitions to the villages, cities, and ancient kingdoms, including their leaders, prophesying their doom or fulfilling their hopes and restoring lost glory. They'd right more wrongs and punish offenders of the divine law. Centuries before for Christ, They were known to heal the sick, restore dignity and strength to weak, and sight to the blind. They were famous for curing lameness, epileptics, deaf, mutes, and lepers. They were said to cast out demons and even raise up the dead. This last reference is probably meant to call up and materialize the spirit of a dead person. For example, the Sibyl named Heraphele, I think that's her name, Heraphele, residing in Cumian, Rome, was famed for calling up the spirit of the apostle Samuel. When you hear about that in the Bible, they're talking about her. She was a Sibyl. She was a prophetess, okay, from the dead. It says Sibyl's divine oracle basis for Western Bible. Okay, they're letting you know this is talking about how they created this Bible based off Sibyl's prophecy, and they giving credit to these Jews, these prophet Jews or whatever. Okay, they're letting you know they're stealing these prophecies from African women, and they've created this Bible saying that they are saying it, but they're not saying it. I hope I broke that down to you, for you to to help you understand that. However, the Sibyls' most significant contribution were their famous oracles containing divine prophecies that they would utter in trance possession. So this possession thing is nothing new. They're trying to make you afraid of it, but this is part of our culture. Okay, this is part of our culture. Our ancestors communicate with us like that. We had, we're the first one who tapped into mediumship. So you have to understand African spirituality, so you don't be afraid of it, because now you have other people, non-Africans, taking it over because you're afraid of it. Okay, it's nothing to be afraid of. It's nothing to be afraid of. Okay, these prophecies would carefully these prophecies would be carefully written down by their assistants and compiled into books. These prophetic proses were the basis for Greek and Roman tragedies and plays. These prophetic books were later collected by Roman authorities and soon became the sole and undisputed precursor to the Western Christian Bible, and would later lay the ecclesiastical foundation of Western civilization. Over the millenniums, other Sibyl prophecies, oracles, revelations were systematically retrieved and purchased, stolen, and haphazardly collected by various means throughout the ancient world where the temples existed. It was these books that would later be plagiarized, revised, or altered and compiled into one holy book known as the Sibylline Oracles. They would later become the center of the bitter doctrinal and heresy wars between the warring Levitical Jews and the emerging Roman Vatican authority. As the African matriarchal power began to decline and her colonies taken over by foreign conquerors, it was the thrones and sacerdotal power and prophecies of the Sibyls that was stolen from them by the emerging Roman Church. Their religions were later labeled as pagan heathen under a now racialist Roman authority. The emerging Roman Church, in their ignorance and ambition, acquired and doctored the Levite Jews' corrupted versions of the Sibyl prophecies until one could hardly distinguish one forgery from another. So they just study forgery. You don't know one forgery from the next. That Bible and the Quran. We don't need a holy book. We don't need those books, okay? Some of these prophetic books were used by Vatican to compile what is known today as Judeo-Christian Bible, crediting their authorship to conspicuous Roman and other male prophets. Those books, for which it was hard to conceal their African matriarchal origins, were simply destroyed or regulated by heresy. The gender of God was later changed from feminine to masculine. Originally, within each prophetic verse, it is claimed that Sibyls were praising to Miami as Our Lady and proclaimed that she was the greater than any god in the world. Roman senators Cicero, the orator, writes that the last three books of the Sibyl, Hierophile, were deliberately burned in a fire by Roman governor Stilicon the tyrant. Stilicon was eternally hated by all Rome for his sacrilegious acts, which prompted a universal reaction from poets, scholars, musicians alike to worship. So worship was the symbol of Cumia, that she was immortalized by all Rome in one of her appellations, Europa, for which Europe is allegedly named. So they letting you know that Europe named, this man ate the food so bad they named one of these Sibyls after the country. That's why it's called Europe or Europa. But I'm sure a lot of you, if you've come into knowledge, you already know that. But now you know a little bit more about the story. It was African Sibyls group, original persecuted ones. So the Sibyls were when you read about the Christians being persecuted in the Bible, that's a bunch of baloney. Okay, these are Sibyls and the descendants of Sibyls that's being persecuted and killed all over the ancient world. They are not killing Christians. Paul is just telling a lie. Okay. We got to stop listening to. You got to stop reading that stuff because it's a whole bunch of lies and deception in it. Okay. Until you know the real truth, don't pick it up and try to make sense of it until you know more about it. It was the African traditional religionist groups and not the so-called Christian who were actual one persecuted and finally enslaved. It was the Sibyl style of prophecy and magic that would later be imitated by the militant faction from these patriarchal Levitical groups whom envious of her global positioning rebelled the divine matriarch orders and seized their temples and overthrew their priesthood. In their jealousy, hatred, and rebellion of their divine authority, the Levitical Jews elevated the original minor deity, Jehovah, minor deity. Their minor deity, did you hear me? Jehovah, as an insult to her. Together, Jehovah and his patriarchal clan usurped her sacerdotal and secular power, and from the moment on, they have worn it as their own. So they let you know they stole everything from these African people and worn it from their own. I see this in New Age religion. I see this with a lot of non-Africans coming into African spirituality. They will not honor our ancestors. They do not like us to tell our story. When it comes to African religions, they will kick you out. In some of their other Wiccan groups, I can talk about this and they get upset, and this is the fact. Your spiritual practice, all that is centered around African spirituality, but they get upset when they tell you that. When you tell them this, and they'll say we're all one, we're all the same. Yeah, we're all the same on a cosmic level, but genetically, no, we're not the same. And I'm not saying we're better than them, but our connection is a lot different from their connection to the divine. Okay, it's just different. And I'm telling the truth. I'm not trying to be racist or anything else. It's different. And New Age people don't want to talk about that. We don't have to call on these different deities like that because we are genetically linked to our ancestors, and those deities. So we don't have to, make up this stuff about aliens coming from outer space to talk to them or whatever that is. We don't have to make up that because we can talk to our ancestors. Okay, they are genetically linked to our deities. The angels, all that was stolen from us. So we don't have to make up this story again. That's just them making up stuff. They're taking your stuff and making more stuff up on top of it. So and my thing about people trying to make money off our stuff, and some of you people out there too, that's just like me. I was surprised when I got into this. It's into metaphysics, and I was surprised when I got into metaphysics, and nobody, no African people was in this, and the African people in this is making money. No, you're not supposed to be making money. All the African people are supposed to be learning this. It's supposed to be a ministry set up for this. Okay, we're not supposed to be charging them like that to do all types of rituals. They're supposed to know. We're supposed to know these rituals. I'm against that too. And see, that's what the meetup group is all about. Is establishing what people want to know about African spirituality and what they want to adopt and practice in their life to connect with their ancestors. That's what it's about. I trip off these people. Oh yeah, I want to help you, but you got to pay me $300. Really? Oh, I can do this for you, but I can pay you for you got to pay me $400. No, they're not doing anything that you can do. If you learn a ritual and the thing yourself, you can do this stuff yourself. It is your birthright to learn this and tap into this yourself. No one is going to make something happen like you. You putting your own emotions and intentions into it. You know what you want. You know how to call in your ancestors. You know what, the DNA is in your blood. You know what I'm saying? So I don't agree with that. It's a lot of y'all that set up shop and you're making money off people instead of exposing our people to their own African spirituality. Again, you're blocking off the knowledge from them. You're not sharing it with them. You're not empowering with them. You're not making a ministry of helping them learn their birthright. You're not doing that. You're not doing that. And a lot of y'all don't like me because I speak on that type of stuff, but I really don't care. I just couldn't be I could just couldn't shut said you're gonna make money already if you already educate the people. You know what I'm saying? But y'all shut up. It becomes a selfish thing, and that's what happened with this. That's what happened with this. It got shelved into a money thing, and it's been stuck. A lot of us starting to wake up, but we go right back to where we got stuck in what got us in this messed up position. It's not supposed to be done. This is a ministry. This is what you're supposed to teach the people. You're supposed to teach us women. We're supposed to be teaching other these birthright and these rituals and stuff. Okay, it's supposed to be a ministry. Okay. It's not to hide the knowledge. Oh, well, you pay me $500. I do this too. I do this spell for you. I do this for you. No, I think that is kind of wrong. Okay, that's why I like for people. I do readings for people, but I would like for people. It's easy for you to read for yourself. I want to teach you to read for yourself, to know the symbols and the signs. To know the symbols and signs that you pick up in your mind. That's what that's about. I'm here to empower. I'm not here to, set up this class and we make money like that. You know what I'm saying? No. Now if you got a ministry like that and somebody wants to go into depth more and it's going to take a lot more of your time or whatever, then put up a small fee, But these ridiculous prices or whatever, African people is the most povertized people. So why do you want to keep charging them at the butt for stuff? No, you need to be doing something to empower them and showing them how to make money together. No, it just, it's madness. So that's what I got to say about that. I know a lot of y'all mad about that, but that's why I created chemistry. I give 10% of my money back to a ministry that I am creating so I can provide these type of programs. So we can provide these type of programs and we can, educate each other and we can start waking up, coming out this ignorance. That's why I get 10%. And I don't know anybody who's doing it. You should be doing it. If you have a business like that and you are into African spirituality, you should have a ministry like that. You should give back to the ancestors. You should give back to their legacy. You should give back to the people. If you're not doing it, you need to be doing it because you're using the ancestors to profit. And so what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing for the people? What are you doing for their legacy? Because this is what they were doing. This is the legacy they stood in. This is what they were giving back to the people. They weren't just trying to monopolize it and keep the people ignorant and get paid off people ignorance. Because that's basically what you're doing. The same thing that the preacher doing. You can't do that. I mean, it just don't seem right. So just look at that a little bit further. I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but we're going to have to be more responsible and accountable when we're doing this. You know what I'm saying? When I came to this knowledge, I'm like, oh yeah, I can change my career, but look how many other people I can help. And I don't have to be greedy about it. I don't have to be greedy about it. I don't say, hey, I can't help you, give me $500. No. Let me teach you, let's teach each other. Let's learn from each other. This is what I learned about this ritual. Let me show you this. You want to know more, I have this class. It's very affordable. You know, some of this stuff is just ridiculous. You know, it's a lot of you out here doing that, but you're not giving back to the ancestors. You're not giving back to the African people, and a lot of you are responsible for the condition that we're into because you're not doing it. You're not doing it. You're not focusing on your culture, on your legacy. You're not doing it, and you need to be doing it. That makes all the difference. Okay, so they letting you know that millions of her people were murdered and enslaved, and millions scattered to the four winds all across the world. The historical evidence shows that it was these people, it was these groups, not the Christians, who were the actual ones persecuted, finally enslaved. The New Testament is actually a historical chronicle of the final destruction of the remnants of the African matriarchal authority. Books that were politically and not divinely inspired, which is why the Levitical Jews, enemies of Roman Church, refused to recognize them as authentic. The Sibyl traditions live on in West Africa. The history of the Sibyls is not entirely dead. In West Africa, there lies a matriarchal order of women who call up the dead. Many lineages of these women were also sold into slavery in America. Many black women are born not knowing that their suffering stems from their disconnection with their ancient rights and spiritual duty to continue the work of their ancient mothers. The suppression of ancient history of African matriarchs and their contribution to world religion, magic, spirituality, and prophecy is one of the greatest cover ups and divine tragedies in human history. This author remains convinced that until the history is restored and African women are accorded their rightful place in the world, there will probably never be any peace. And that was just the introduction, okay, that I read to you. Good book. Get it. African women, pull your bootstraps up. Call on the ancestors. African men, we need your support so much. We need your protection so much. We need to just, bury this wedge between us. It's just over. And we need to start supporting each other and loving each other and spreading this ministry and this word, motivate each other, inspire each other. If you're an African spiritual practitioner, I hope you're reaching out, developing cultural, economic structure, culture that we're helping each other, teaching each other, empowering each other, motivating each other. That's what this is all about. We should not be monopolizing and capitalizing on each other's ignorance. It's just, I just don't agree to that. I never felt right about that. But she talks about that in this book too. She talks, so if you are African spiritualist and you read this book, you know better. And if you're doing it, kudos to you. Kudos to you. I'm getting there. Okay? I'm getting there. I'm walking in that legacy. So I hope you like this book review. Again, it's the Sibyls, the First Prophetess of Mami Wata, The Theft of African Prophecy by the Catholic Church by Mama Zogby, Vivian Hunter, I guess that's her real name, Vivian Hunter, Hendrew, M.E.D., Chief Huan Agamanisi. So, shout out to her. I love this sister elder. She bought it. She bought truth. I'm for truth. And she connected with everything. So thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something. I hope this video touched you. I hope this book review inspired you. If you interested in our group, Honoring African Ancestors Matter, find us on meetup.com. If you're interested in purchasing an altar, incense, or anything like that, come to my website, Google me. I don't have a physical bookstore yet. I don't have that yet, but I am working on it. Okay. The more purchases I get at the website, I can open a metaphysical store and have people to come in and share things with them, and you can look around and purchase things. 10% of everything you purchase goes towards the economic and spiritual empowerment of African people. I put that, that's what I'm doing for 10% of my profits, So uh, remember that, that I'm giving back, that this organization is giving back to you. So whatever you invest into the company, whatever you buy, remember you're investing into you. So think of it that way, because the organizations and the programs that honoring African ancestors matter, it's going to set up programs like that to reach out to people like you, to reach out to you, to set up some type of network to become closer and touch hands with each other. So that's what that is about. That's what that 10% is going to be used for, to give back to you. So I love you again. Thank you for watching uh, this video, and I hope you learned some love and light. And may the ancestors be with you and lead you to truth. Bye.